It feels great. I was so looking forward to coming back and working with this wonderful orchestra. I have very fond memories to the last time when we did Rachmaninoff, and also had a wonderful soloist. And we had a great audience, and it was just before the pandemic. So it seems like a long time ago, but at the same time, sitting with the orchestra and the first rehearsals felt like I was here yesterday. In many ways, that's a wonderful feeling, a feeling of familiarity, and that even though we have a completely different style of music this time, it's a continuation of our work and of our relationship. So I'm very much looking forward to this week. We've already had wonderful work on Beethoven and Haydn, drum roll symphony, and Schumann IV Symphony, and it's sounding wonderful. Yeah, sure. It feels in many ways like home. And I have to say that something like, Schumann is a composer very dear to me because of the connection that, of course, he has to Clara Schumann, the story of Clara and Robert that I grew up with and I know very well, but also the connection that he and his wife had to Mendelssohn, and then later to Brahms. For me, I live that every day. So that is a language that I feel I understand very well, very naturally. Also because of the many songs, I grew up singing many of the Schumann songs and cycles, and I find that in a lot of his, not just symphonies, but his chamber music as well. On one hand, difficult, technical writing that he has for the strings, but on the other hand, these beautiful flowing lines, these beautiful melodies that he has. But at the same time, he has something unique in addition to some of the other contemporary composers. He often writes with a real fever of both of joy, sometimes of anxiety, sometimes with fear, and we know because it's autobiographical. He was similar to Brahms and other composers. His music tells us something so honest about him. So it's not too academic. There is a level of emotional honesty that his music has. And I feel very, very close to that and understanding that, trying to bring that out, both in the orchestra, but also then to the listeners. And with Beethoven, with his drama and with his extraordinary sense of depth that he brought from the literature, something that he and Schumann, of course, have in common, because Schumann comes from literature, his father being a publisher and him reading a lot. And his music has this storytelling ability. And then Beethoven, very similar with all of his overtures that were so influenced by his readings and, of course, by plays and by the theater, is so heartfelt and so deep. So Coriolan, like Egmont, is a very tragic story, and his music and the way he writes it is absolutely gut-wrenching and so important always to feel, and we start with that piece. And Haydn, I feel, even though Haydn, of course, was the earliest teacher of Beethoven, and Beethoven was much influenced early on, but Haydn's last symphonies are so much filled with humor and with his genius of coming up with new ideas. So this is where we're doing the symphony number 103, but he brings new ideas, even that he didn't try in his first 100 symphonies, it seems. And we have wonderful solos also. So we don't have a soloist per se in our concert, but the big star is Radek, our great concertmaster, who has not one but two big violin solos, both in the Schumann Symphony and in the Haydn, the great second movement, which has a big violin solo. And it was so successful during its premiere in London, that movement had to be repeated because it has that amazing solo. And they had a great leader, as does this orchestra. So I'm very happy to be able to do it.